always believe, and this is sort of a saying, that if you're born First Nations in this country, you can't help but be political. And for me, the bison, in many ways, is a continuum of the history of my ancestors. The bison fed them, and there was everything for them. And even in today, for me, I make money off my art, which is the bison. So in a way, I'm still living in the same ways as my ancestors did. It's interesting for me to continue that research into that history, but also look at the place I'm living, in particular Saskatchewan and Saskatoon, and its history, and how I fit into that history. Part of our decision to come to Saskatoon was we wanted to be in a place where there was a very noticeable Indigenous presence, and politically, socially, all those things. And then, knowing, it's so interesting, this part of town has this reputation. And so when we were talking to friends about moving on to 20th Street, they're like, oh no, do you really want to do that? And they're saying, of course we do. We become a part of the community that we decide to live in. And so for us, it was an easy decision to move on to 20th. And I know there's been a lot of talk about the gentrification of 20th Street, and yes, that has been happening and will happen. It's part of ongoing cycles of any city. But I think it's great that all the arts organizations are coming in, but of course that's implicated in the whole gentrification, because they always say bring in the artists first, and the artists will change everything. Which is there's truth to that. But at the same time, I think a lot of artists too, are sensitive to that and don't want to be sort of complicit in it, because I think a lot of artists want diversity, and that's, I think, why we move to these neighborhoods, because we want that diversity. And so I think, again, there's always a balance, and I think that balance needs to include, social outlets for people, places for people to gather, all those things, and we can't forget that. I think that in any sort of process of redeveloping community, you have to watch and keep a balance, that you don't totally squeeze out the people who are there, and then also I think any sort of city development, inner city development, has to take so many things in consideration. I think it's really important to not overlook or overshadow a city's history, and the people who live there. I want everybody to be in my neighborhood, not just one type of person. So I think that that's something that we have always been conscious of, and have deliberately put ourselves in communities that are diverse, and that we want to be a part of. If the community sort of comes together and watches each other, that it becomes more of a caring neighborhood. It's a fantastic neighborhood, and it has all the potential in the world to be whatever it wants to be. And I think it's always been an international sort of neighborhood in a sense, and so I hope that continues, and I hope that that as time goes by, there's a lot more opportunities for all the people who exist here.